So I was watching a documentary on the Unabomber the other day, and something wasn't adding up. Normally with serial killers, there's some clear abuse, neglect, something in their early childhood that leads to them eventually becoming serial killers. But with this guy, it seemed like a pretty normal family, and there wasn't anything obvious in his background that would indicate that he would go that way. They were interviewing his brother, who seemed, again, pretty normal. And then at one point, they talked about a childhood hospitalization. So when I think he was about 6 months old, he'd had some illness and been taken into the hospital. And at that point, parents did not get to stay with their children. So he was in the hospital for a few weeks, and the parents were only allowed to come for half an hour twice a week to visit. Now that is childhood trauma. And the brother was saying that after that incident, his brother had been developing very normally, and after that he stopped making eye contact, he stopped smiling and laughing, he stopped playing. These are all very clear indicators of childhood trauma. So what we can learn from the Unabomber is that, well, number one, babies do experience trauma. There is a myth that children are very resilient, that they don't need any treatment for trauma, and very often in a loving family system, a child can experience extreme trauma even and recover from that, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do need intervention. So the second thing that we can learn from this is if your child's experienced something and their behavior changes after that, that is a good indicator that they may need some help. Now, the last thing I wanted to point out is that trauma, especially for infants and toddlers, is not necessarily the things we would think of as trauma for adults. So adults, we're usually looking at life-threatening or extremely overwhelming experiences, but because babies and toddlers are so dependent on their caregivers for survival, even things that look benign to adults can be incredibly traumatic for a baby. So it is never too early or too late to get help for trauma. So if you notice that your baby or child has had a change of behavior following some experience, even if that experience doesn't look traumatic to you, get in touch and let's see what we can do.